Welcome to another episode of the RAG podcast. And for those of you who don't know, the RAG stands for Recruitment Agency Growth. Since early 2019, I've been interviewing the most successful and innovative recruitment owners to learn how they rose to the top of their game. In season 7, I'm going to be having raw, authentic, and insightful conversations with agency owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, people across the industry. And I want to be learning about their ambitions, what's happening behind the scenes in their agencies today, and their plans to navigate difficult market conditions. I'll be bringing you the latest and greatest recruitment stories every single week on Wednesdays at noon across multiple platforms. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the RAG podcast. On this week's show, I was joined by Dan Moussa and Kevin Warner, the founders of Telesca. Telesca is an 11-month-old recruitment business headquartered in Brisbane, with a completely unique model. These guys recruit in the energy and sustainability space, and they've literally ripped up how to do recruitment and done it their own way. So they've built a productized model that is 100% retained, and every recruiter in their business has 7 years experience and is supported by a candidate manager working offshore in the Philippines. In 11 months, they've generated 1.6 million Australian dollars, and they're on for, in their second financial year, because in Australia it's July it starts, they're on for $2.1 million with a team of currently 8 people, soon to be 11 people. It's bonkers. In this episode, we talk about how they met, how they started the business, why they started the business, and we go into detail about this model because I genuinely think it's amazing. I mean, it's super profitable, super scalable, and sustainable as well, which is what it's all about. So if you're launching a recruitment firm, if you're new to launching your own business and you want to build a more sustainable business built on retained revenue, listen to this show. So let's get into it. Without further ado, Dan, Kev, welcome to the RAG podcast.
Hey, how you doing?
two at once. I always find when I interview 2 people that you're always playing a game of trying to work out who's going to speak. But I'm well, guys. Thanks so much. It's morning in the UK where I am. What time is it in Brisbane right now? I'll say Dan. Dan, what time is it?
We're just gone 7:30, mate. 7:30
Right.
here, and I say a glorious summer's evening, but it's raining for once, unfortunately.
Is it? Well, you've I do appreciate you taking the time to speak to me at this time of night. I know you've got families and other things you could be doing. Dan, Kev, so, I've given you a brief introduction. Kevin, I'll ask you. I can never do it justice. Do us a favor. Just give us the overview of your business now, like the people, location, niche markets, that kind of stuff. I don't want the story. We'll go into that. Just the bird's eye view if people don't know who Telesca are.
Yeah, so we are a recruitment business specializing in the energy, ESG and sustainability markets, and currently based out of Brisbane. We've got a team of 7 currently, and got a few more pipelines to start in the new year.
Right. So you started the business, was it a year ago-ish?
Yeah, 11 months. 11 months on, almost to the day.
Oh, so was it around January time? Is that right?
Yeah, so we launched actually just before Christmas, well, yeah. The reason behind it was because we had a client that wanted to send us, or wanted us to send them an invoice. So I mean, what better way to start the business? So we politely adhered to that and sent an invoice, and then went on holiday for a week or 2 before really kind of kicking on in January. So yeah, it was a pretty good way to kick off. Might have put a little bit of extra salt in the wound. It was our previous boss's birthday on the day, I think. So I don't think it was perfect timing.
Isn't January like a big holiday in Australia though? Like, is it a random time to start a business where everyone's not working?
Yeah, I think it is. Obviously, look, it's Christmas, but maybe it's school holidays here as well, right? The big holiday, and then we've got Australia Day on the 26th. So a lot of people say, "Oh, look, nothing happens really until January 26th." But I think there's exceptions to that rule. I think that's probably changed the last sort of 12, 24 months. And I think, look, when you've got 2 guys who've just started a business, you're just desperate to get going, right? And we wanted to rip into it ASAP. So we just kind of went for it, mate. It's pretty, like, we can go into a story, but originally we were going to start with the business in August, and then it was March, and then it was January, and then it was December. So we just got too excited, mate. I think I went for it.
Love it. So let's go back then. So obviously, Dan, you're not from Australia, you're living in Brisbane. How did you end up out there?
Yeah, mate. Mate, long story. I sort of grew up in Edinburgh. Actually, worked. My first ever job was at Hayes in 2006 after uni. Did that for a year and swore never to work in recruitment again. Famous last words. And was working in sort of procurement and construction, and eventually property in Edinburgh. And got to 30 and got really itchy feet again. I actually moved up to Hong Kong. Wow. And when I was in Hong Kong, I met a young lady by the name of Katie, who is now my wife, and she's from Brisbane. So we actually ended up back here. I did about 5 or 6 years in Hong Kong, then ended up in Saudi, in Riyadh for 3 years, which is pretty interesting. And then, we bounced back to Brisbane pretty much 2 years ago to the month. So that's how we ended up back here.
So you're one of them real expats. Journey. You're a proper expat. Australia, Middle East, and Asia. Like, you've done it.
Just to US to go, but not too keen on that. But I've done it, mate. I've been lucky.
Growing up wearing a kilt in -12 conditions, you must love wearing shorts every day now for the rest of your life.
He still wears a kilt, I think.
Do you know what? It's funny to do, mate. But like, having lived in like Riyadh and it's like 50 degrees, and like Hong Kong and even Brisbane, it's pretty hot and humid. Man, I hate the heat. I'm not a big lover of the heat.
Wow. Well, you picked some random places to live, mate. And Kevin, you said you're originally from New Zealand before we started. Tell us a bit about how you've ended up in Brisbane.
Started off in New Zealand, and I was sort of the first out of my group to venture away, and bought a one-way ticket. My mum's English, so I had a one-way ticket over to the UK. Landed in London, was planning to be there for a short stint before going home for the Rugby World Cup in 2011, got into recruitment, absolutely loved it, and my boss at the time was not too keen on me taking sort of 3 months off to go back to watch rugby, so I ended up staying, and it was eight years in London, and a short stint in Madrid, and then back to Australia. I say when it was time to come home, and my folks had sold up and moved to Australia. So if I had kind of gone past them and landed back in New Zealand, I don't think they would have forgiven me. So here I am, and settled in Brisbane, and it's been about 8 years now back in Brisbane. So been a while out of New Zealand.
How similar is Australia? I mean, I lived in Australia, but I never got to New Zealand. How similar are those two countries, would you say?
I'd say that there's a number of similarities. I think the biggest difference for me, at least, was probably the economy, and particularly going back sort of eight or so years ago, the economy in Australia was far better than New Zealand, and I think it will always be the case. I've got obviously a massive soft point to New Zealand. It's always, in my mind, it will always be home. But I think, fast forward now, I've got a couple of kids, and they're in my opinion, they're now Aussies. So I don't think we're going to be venturing back that way from a permanent point of view anytime soon. But it's a special place. It's one of those countries that you just can't help but be attracted to. It's an absolutely stunning and beautiful place. But
and your kids, are they going to be Aussie or New Zealand?
100%, yeah, absolutely. They're absolutely they're Aussies. I'm a pretty big believer that if you're born in a certain place, that should be your team, right? So my boy, he's almost 5 now, and he gets up, and he's a Wallabies fan, and I don't think he quite realises how bad that is, but one day he might come right, I guess. But I'll keep winding him up about it. So I was giving him a bit of grief the other week because I was giving him a bit of grief because I was giving him a bit of grief the other week because his team was watching our team in the grand final. Not that we ended up winning it, but nonetheless, his team was back home watching my team on the TV. So
it's a big rivalry, though. It's a proper rivalry, that especially in the big games, like in the world. They always seem to play each other in those big tournaments. I've moved over from 1 hour from Manchester to Sheffield, and my wife's family are all big Sheffield United football fans, and I'm a Man City fan. And then the baby now she's got both baby grows. She's got a Man City and a Sheffield United one. And I'm like,
the Blades.
She's from Sheffield, and she might hate football, so who knows? But I kind of still want to give her a Manchester roots, right? It's my side of that's where I'm from. So I'm not gonna go just because you're born here. If you want to be a Man City fan, be a Man City fan. That's up to you.
Mate, Manchester's way cooler. Manchester's way cooler than Sheffield. So yeah,
it is
100%, mate.
It is. What would be worse though, Man United or Sheffield? Where's the line?
Oh no, she can support anyone but Man United. Yeah, I don't care what. Liverpool would be a close second of terrible decision, but they do not be a Man United fan in my house. It's not happening. So guys, how did you two meet? Like, where's the story around you guys? Because, like you say, you've only been in Brisbane for 2 years, Dan.
It's a pretty funny story, mate. I'm gonna tell this one because Kev probably won't. May skip a few bits, but mate, when I was thinking about moving back to Brisbane, we were back here for 6 weeks and working with a couple of Rec-to-Recs, and someone said, "Oh, look, do you want to speak to Kev? He's the general manager of this company called Titan in Brisbane, East Coast." And I was like, "Look, happy to do so." And I had a really sort of good interview with Kev, and it all went pretty well. And then met the owner of the company, I think, and had a brief call with him. And Kev's like, "Yeah, mate, we love you. We're going to offer you. Like, we're really excited." So that's pretty good. Kev seems like a real good bloke. And about 4 days later, turned around and was like, "Oh, actually, we're not going to make you an offer at the moment. Like, we sort of can't do it." So I was just like, "All right, cheers, mate."
Oh, nice one.
Yeah, how good, eh? Just saw me down the river. But as it turns out, sort of about 12 months later, another opportunity sort of popped up, and Kev reached out to me again, and this time was pretty persuasive, and the reason.
Tell them the truth, mate. Tell them the truth. I met you for a beer that time, and I was able to close it over a bit.
You did. I think I got a couple of free pints out at least on a few occasions. And then,
where did you go? What did you find a firm in Brisbane to just join then, Dan? Like, so
I ended up working for an amazing lady down in Sydney called Sarah McCandless, who actually owns a company called Enterprise IT Resources. Kind of helping her some growth and strategy. But she was Sydney based. I was in Brisbane. I was traveling down sort of like once a month, and pretty difficult to make significant change and impact when you're only somewhere I found once a month. So that kind of wasn't working out. So yeah, look back in Brisbane and worked out well. And Kev kind of opened the door at Titan. And then funnily enough, I sort of was in there for 5 or 6 months. And I've been thinking about doing my own thing for a number of years and probably just hadn't had the balls to pull the trigger, and sort of sat Kev down and said, "Oh, listen, mate, I'll be up front. I'll probably just give you to the end of the financial year, and then I think I need to go and sort of do my own thing." And at that point, Kev said, "Oh, well, it's interesting. Interesting. You say that. Don't do anything just yet." And turns out that he was having sort of similar thoughts, and we had a number of chats around it, and we got the families together, and we just sort of tested a few things, and then that's how we met, mate, and how we jumped in and did it pretty much.
So you hadn't actually worked together very long, really?
6 months?
No, not at all. Yeah, 6 months probably. Yeah. So I think it was 6 months today. I think I just passed your probation before.
Mate, it was 6 months, and Kev was hardly there, so it's probably about 3 months.
What do you have to do to like stress test? You said stress test, but what due diligence you have to do on each other to go into? Because going into business with someone is a big decision. Like, it's a big, huge
massively, and it's really funny, right? Because I think Kev and I in business are probably. I think in life I'm potentially a bit more impulsive. I'm a bit more impulsive in terms of I'll back myself and follow things, and that's been my attitude, and it's kind of taken me all around the world. But now actually, if you look at a business, Kev's probably much more of like, let's go, do this. And I'm sort of more like, whoa, let's just look at the scenarios here, or let's look at the budget. So that works really well. But in terms of stress and analysis, I think we just had a couple of really honest conversations, didn't we, Kev? Like we were like, what's your idea? How do you see a business? How do I see a business? Do you want to scale? Do you want lifestyle? You know, we had those conversations over a number of weeks and make sure that was alignment. And then I guess the last piece was, you know, we've both got wives and young kids. We thought we wanted to get everyone together just to make sure everyone kind of got along, right? Because we've had an unreal 12 months, but at some point, you know, things will get difficult, and we'll probably face some pretty significant challenges as a business or even personally, right? So we want to make sure that everyone clicked and everyone got along, not just on the business point of view.
Yeah, I think I'm like further to that. I think the the reality, like it is very challenging in business, and you've got to make sure you've got the right person with you. And I think that the one thing that I think I value probably the most in our relationship as owners, I think we both can move past things very quickly. So like we'll both be quite strongly opinionated on a certain topic, but being able to have a discussion, disagree on those points, but then come back to each other and realize. I think we both analyze ourselves and go, okay, well maybe actually this is probably not the right thing for me, or maybe we should do it this way. And we kind of reached a point quite quickly. And I think we noticed that early on in the time we met each other. So it sort of, I think the biggest thing with in my opinion, in these sorts of relationships is being able to have those discussions, disagree on points, because you always going to disagree on points, but actually be able to come back to it and be constructive. And I think that we've done that multiples of times over the last couple of years, and I think that's probably what was the driver for me. It was a good combination.
You said you had this chat about, do we want lifestyle, do we want scale, which I think is like the classic decision you've got to make, and that can change as well. But what did you come up with? What
scale?
Right. So you both said we want to build a business here. It's not about just, a nice lifestyle with the family. It's about building something.
I think the attraction of having a lifestyle business is always somewhat appealing, because you can earn some really good money. You can kind of have the best of both worlds. And I think there's an element of probably both of us that we're thinking, well, maybe the time in our life is pretty good to do that. But then I think we both kind of quickly realized that we're just not those people, right? Like we're not the type of people that like to sit still and just have it comfortable. Comfortable is uncomfortable for us, and I think that was probably one of the things we realized quite quickly on, and that sort of just escalated what we wanted to do, and then the wheels started to move from there.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because a lifestyle business kind of has this negative connotation, I think, with a lot of people in our sector. Like it's like and it's not a good thing to do. Whereas I think it depends on how you define it. Like how I look at it is like it's probably choosing profit now over profit later, like money later, isn't it? It's like because you can still build it's about just being lean and profitable. I think a lifestyle business rather than being like foregoing profit for investment for later. Like that's the bit that's not everyone wants to do and isn't comfortable.
But I think when you talk about like that foregoing profit with a lifestyle business, like I think Kev's like me, mate. I literally love doing deals, and that'll never change. Like I'm trying to get away from it a little bit and focus more on the business and process. But mate, I'll be on the phone at 11 o'clock at night, half 10 at night, somewhere in the world, trying to close a deal. I'm like to annoyance of my family probably, but I just like, mate, I can't just tell you how much I love doing deals. So like, I feel if you're a lifestyle business, you're more comfortable closing the laptop at 6 o'clock and saying everything can wait until tomorrow, or if it's going to be done. I just don't. For me, I don't have that mentality. If something's happening, I'm after it, or I'm involved in it, or I want to be involved in it.
Fair. So you have this chat. When was this? When you started having these like exploratory meetings and working out?
Obviously, after we'd resigned and left our current employer.
Oh yeah. Sorry, man.
This sort of time, I guess October, November last year, September, October.
Yeah, I'd say probably October, November, and I think we can be pretty open. I think the conversation was one that I don't think either of us realized we were. I think individually we were going to have we were having these thoughts or decisions between externally, but it wasn't probably something that we ever thought was going to be a joint conversation until it was, and then it sort of changed the scope of what we were looking at pretty quickly. And I think to Dan's point earlier, like the timeframes of when we were thinking of launching kind of pulled forward, and I think at the end it got to a point where we felt like we were not going to be doing the right thing by our current employer if we were just to drag it out for a few months. And so we just figured, now there's no perfect time to do it. I mean, Dan was a couple of months away from having his second kid, right? So, there's never the perfect time to do it. And I think we just both felt like being respectful to our employer that we were with, it was the right thing to do by cutting it off and getting into it sooner rather than later. And I think
you said
no regrets there.
Planning to launch in, was it August of this year. Then
yes, no, it would have
back.
been. So it would have been. We were working this time 2022, and we said, "Oh, we'll get to the end of financial year," so that would have been
July,
July 2023, and then we're like, "Oh, we'll just get to the end of the next quarter and pick up some commission and do it then," and then Kev was really keen to get motoring, and then I was just like, we had a couple of conversations with some sort of potential people who wanted to back us in and give us some work, and I was like, oh, let's just pull a plaster off and get it done.
You kept moving the goalposts earlier and earlier, and then you were like, fuck it, let's just go.
Yeah, and then for my wife, I was like, remember that 9-month plan? We're doing it tomorrow instead.
How did that go down?
I think as well, like you often kind of, when you're in that position of making that move to start the own thing, you kind of think, okay, well, where's the money coming from that'll take us through, to carry us through, to get us going, and that sort of thing. And so that's where our kind of thinking literally was coming from initially. And I think we were all tying it to these kind of commission milestones and so on and so forth. And I think the reality was, and I think in hindsight, looking back, you make that money up in that period anyway. So, the short term pain for the longer term gain. If we had waited till August to start the business, we would have been further behind to where we are today. And so by doing it, and just if we were there, we were committed, we were in, for two reasons: being respectful to our current employer at that time was the right thing to do, but secondly, being able to just kind of back yourself in and make it happen. Whenever you pull the trigger, you just got to go for it.
No, I get it.
So,
go on, Dan.
I was just going to add, I think our models allowed us to do that too, because we don't. I mean, we can go into later on, right? But we only work in retained assignments. We don't do anything contingent, really. And so by as soon as you win work, when you're working that model, right, you're away, you're earning money, the fees are coming in. It allows you to go and go and go. So the model we built and the process and the methodology we built probably allowed us to get going far quicker. Like, yes, we had that sort of initial panic of, wow, we need to get some fees on the board, we need to get rolling, but we never had that position. You hear so many people I'm a month in, 2 months in, I've just got to do a deal, and you're trying to place anything and just to get a fee on the board. And we kind of didn't have that stress in a way, which was pretty nice. We just had to get the client on board. Yeah, deliver what we committed, and we're off and running. So we were pretty lucky in that regard as well.
Well, you create your own look. You went with that model and it worked, right? So where did the name come from?
Go on, Kev.
Great question. So interestingly, I think when I was going to be going out on myself, the name I had already sort of put in the back of my mind was Telesca, which is just basically a combination of my two kids' names. So Leo being the LE, and my girl's Francesca, so the SCA at the end. So Telesca was going to be the name, and then when Dan sort of came into the equation, he had a girl, Taylor. So we added the TA into the front, and Telesca was formed. Dan will definitely be having a Yeah, well, a lot of people think that it really does sort of sit quite well with obviously the industry we work in the recruitment sense. But obviously a couple of months, I mentioned earlier, Dan had his second boy a couple of months after we launched. So poor old Rolly didn't get mentioned in the name. So that's going to be a really interesting discussion for him in about 10 years' time, when he has to explain why he's not in there.
He just gets extra shares, doesn't he? That's it. Just give.
He'll get something. We'll do. He'll get something. We'll put him in somewhere. Yeah, we'll worry about that when it comes.
I love that.
I think that sorry, I was going to say. I think the name and probably the really important part of our business is really we try to think. We try and look everything back to the name of our business, right? So. The markets that we work in, being renewables, ESG, sustainability, are all these forward-facing or future-facing kind of industries. And once again, for us, it's all about the purpose of the business, and the purpose of the business starts with the name. And so when we're starting to make decisions, or we're thinking about what we want to do, we're going on that journey internally as an organization around sustainability and should we be traveling? Should we not be traveling? How do we get to work? What are we looking at from a cost point of view? And when you start going into this and start to explore these areas more and more, you really start to understand what it is all about, and you start to live and breathe those values. And I think that was one thing that we both aligned to quite early on was really how do we want to operate as a business. And so the name is really important to us for many reasons. Obviously, it's our kids, so there's a personal attachment there, but it also means so much more as far as like the purpose of what we're about, how we're approaching things, what we want to be known for, how we want to act with our clients, how we want to be seen as far as the supplier is concerned, wanting to be acting ethical. It's all these things that tie back to kids, right? And what's really important to us and to others as well.
And setting an example for them to follow, right?
100%.
In terms of to paint the picture, then let's go back to day one. What was it? Where did you base yourselves? How are you operating it? Let's tell the story from there.
So I was about probably must have been about August time last year. I took the move to I've got a small Queenslander, and so not much space in the house. So we invested in a shipping container. So we bought a 20-foot shipping container. It got dumped on the backyard around September. I convinced my old man to come and help me, but he was certainly the leader behind it, and we completely renovated this whole shipping container and turned it into a sort of outdoor office. So fully wired it up and got aircon in it, and put big rug sliders in and windows and fitted it all out in the knowledge that this was going to be the office for me moving forward. And then obviously the kind of dad coming into the picture, all this sort of things started to happen, but that was my base. So I positioned myself there. It didn't turn out great, and you can see, I don't think anyone else can see, but you can see I'm not in the container anymore.
I'm in the container. Yeah, I can't tell, but it doesn't.
He pissed the neighbours off.
Really?
Yeah, so turns out you have to have planning permission to have a shipping container in your backyard, which I didn't realise. I thought it was a mobile, sort of structure, so I thought I'd be fine, but turns out I wasn't. I've only got one neighbour, by the way, so guess as who it was. The authorities came over, good old Ipswich City Council, and came knocking, and so I had to get rid of that one. I did manage to drag it out for probably about 9 months, longer than I should have, but that's now gone. So, but it kind of worked out well because during that time we ended up getting an office into Brisbane, and so I guess the business accelerated to a point that and we're now quite well set up in Brisbane with a good size office. So I think it probably did its purpose. I'd still love to have it, but here we are.
So from day one, you weren't together then? You did it remotely from the.
We tried to. So yeah, we remotely, but then we actually joined. It was a club in Brisbane called Telesca, which is a bit like like the Caledonian Club, whatever in London, one of these like private members clubs. And it was cheap. It was only like £1,000 to join, right? But within that, there's like business centres, and you get free office space and free rooms. So we actually utilised that a lot, probably for 2 or 3 months. Kev was coming into town probably 3 days to 4 days a week. I hate working. I hate working at home, so I was at the house as much as I can. So we sort of used that, and then we sort of graduated to a serviced office, and we had our own sort of 4 or 5 man serviced office just in the centre of Brisbane there too, which was great. I've got a pretty reasonably loud voice, and Kev, as you can hear, has got a real humdinger of a voice, mate. So having 2 people on the phones and quickly 3 people in a small space just wasn't going to work. So 3 months ago, actually, we moved into our own office space in central Brisbane, mate. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Dan missed a little bit of a part there, though. We the first month before we even got the Telesca's membership, we actually used Sofitel hotel lobby for the first few months. Our sort of weekly get together in the hotel lobby. Thank you, Sofitel Brisbane, much appreciated.
Did you get? Well, we did that. We used to go. There's one called Citizen M at Tower Bridge in London, and we used to fucking rinse it. I mean, like. We paid £100 each for a license at the Regis Business Lounge thing, which was like a real sterile airport lounge on the other side of the water. And then we realised that once we started hiring people, and we had a lot of like freelancers working with us, like creatives and stuff, we were better off going to the Citizen M. And we went there every day, and we'd spend all day there, maybe have like one coffee, and then I think after
coffees are expensive. Hotel coffees aren't cheap.
Yeah. And then after about a month, they started putting these signs on the table saying like, if you're going to sit here, you need to keep buying drinks. And it was definitely because of us. But
no free refills.
It was a cool environment. I mean, it worked. You just get on with it in the early days. You get excited by it. And so you talked about having this retained model from day one. So tell me what that is. How does that work?
Yeah, I think
I'll jump in this one, Kev. I think one of the other reasons we started the business too was firstly, as Kev mentioned, very much purpose driven, focused on the challenges facing the planet. But I sort of love the recruitment industry, and I'm a big believer in many ways it's pretty broken. I think there's a real lack of consultants who can actually consult in the industry. And I think you've got a whole sort of raft of younger recruiters and mid-level recruiters who are pretty transactional and have no fault on their own. Have probably not been that well trained, and that's trickled down. And then particularly during the COVID years, right, people have just been chucked in the deep end and it's not kind of work. So first of all, we're like, well, listen, we want to be consultative, right? Kevin and I are both very consultative by nature. So we said, we're going to come in, we're not going to be transactional, we're going to build partnerships to clients, we're going to actually consult, and we're actually going to really add value to the clients we work with, right? So there's a couple of things around that. The first thing we did said, well, what's the offering going to be? Well, number one, we're not going to work any contingent rules, right? So we said, no point, for me, you need commitment from the client. It allows us to deliver a better service. And it creates a far deeper relationship with your client over a period of time. So then it was like, if we're going to go down this retain model, how can we be different? Because retainers are great, but I still think there's, for a lot of people, a lot of clients, well, they've been easily burnt by a retainer, right? Oh, actually, I got sold a retainer by someone 6 months ago. We just took the fee. I never really heard from anything. We didn't get anything else. So I was like, we don't want that. So we actually started. I'd been following the Odro guys for quite a while. Obviously, Ryan McCabe and Odro on what we do. And I said, Kev, let's get into Odro. People aren't using it in Australia. They've only got a handful of clients, and for me, it's a real game changer. So we got Odro very early, and we really built Odro into our process. So that allows us to actually go and sell this retainer, and we call it an engaged model, and say to client, look, we're not just here to take a retainer and go and put our feet up and chill out. You're going to engage us on a position. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take video recordings of you, your company, your hiring managers. We're going to build these little microsites and present your jobs to the market in a really engaging, dynamic way, which is going to go and get all this passive talent really excited, and we can then bring them back to you. So we obviously went down the engaged model. We actually built a product around that, so we could sell a product. Yeah. And then from there, we've gone from there really quickly. And the other thing we're kind of pretty adamant about at the minute is we're growing, but we're not hiring junior recruiters. So we look at people who have got 7+ years experience to come in at the associate director level. Because I think the other big challenge you get as you scale and you grow is Kev and I are out dealing with clients, and we have a level of service. And clients get to that point, well, I've been working with you for 2 years and now you want to fob me off to the junior team or the rookie, and they get upset. So we're bringing in really experienced consultants who can keep that level of service consistent.
That is the hardest way of scaling, though, isn't it? Because to find those people at the volume you need them is going to be tricky.
It is, and we've also adopted we've also got the offshore we shouldn't really call it offshoring, mate, because we don't offshore. We've got people in the Philippines who are very much part of our business, and I think for us too, that was also an important feature in us being able to deliver to our clients, but being able to attract those people. So
these guys have got 7+ years experience from the Philippines.
For people in the Philippines, they've got sort of 15, 20 years of recruitment experience. They're really seasoned recruiters. So it allows us to go to consultants in Australia who are at that 6-7 year level and say, listen, rather than, you're billing, I don't know, 300, 400, 500,000 at the moment. If you come and work with us, we'll pair you up with your own candidate manager over in the Philippines who's going to be able to support you, do a lot of your candidate mapping, your outreach, be a real running mate with you, which is then going to allow you to take your sort of billings to the next level, because we're giving you more time to consult, to be with your clients, to be with your candidates, and add value where you can.
And to go and sell retainers rather than sitting there just delivering on them all day yourself. I'm interrupting today's episode to give you a message from our brand new sponsor. Now, this company are called Untapped, and everyone knows that Hoxo, through this podcast, I've explained that we've built our team internationally, heavily in South Africa, okay? And I get questions all the time from clients and people who listen to the show, like, how have you done it? What was the process, etc. Well, I've partnered with a business that can ultimately reveal it all, share it all, and help you do the same, right? Because look, it's been a tricky year for the sector, and many of people through uncertain times have had to streamline operations. However, accessing low-cost resources internationally has proven to be a bit of a cheat code for some people, including Hoxo. But anyone who's tried it, like us, it's very difficult, a lot of work, process to get it right. So this company, Untapped, are one of the hottest companies in the market. They've helped Hoxo, they're helping our clients. And they specifically look at companies in the UK, US, Middle East, and Australia transition to using remote individuals and building full offshore sourcing and recruitment solutions. So they source talent pools from places like South Africa and the Philippines. And we're talking about experienced talent here. We're not talking about graduates with no experience. This is like people with 3 to 5 years recruitment experience, and integrate them into your UK team, okay? So they work remotely, but plug into your UK team. They put around 3,000 candidates per month through an intense 4-stage interview and online testing process to find the top 1% or 30 people and secure these people for work with recruitment agencies like yourself. All candidates are benchmarked against UK competency frameworks and the way in which you would hire in the UK. So we're not talking about cheap for the sake of being cheap. We're talking about international, experienced people just living in lower cost locations. So it's a really simple process. If you want to work with these guys, you pay a deposit to kick off their search. They then provide a candidate shortlist in 14 days. And then you can put people through your own process to hire them permanently, or there's a freelance option. So if you just want to try before you buy, they can employ them. You pay a daily rate and it's a freelance option. Untapped are totally transparent with all the salaries and fees. But, we're talking about you'll still pay about 70% less than a UK equivalent in that role. So it's a no-brainer to complement your existing team, to handle surplus demand and ease cost pressures. If you're not using this to rip up your business and rebuild it with global resources, then you're probably going to fall behind eventually. So due to demand and capacity, they're only operating on a waiting list right now. So if you want to be part of their waiting list, go to www.tryuntapped.com. Okay, www.tryuntapped.com and check out their information. Make sure you say that you listen to the RAG podcast, because they'll do you a very special deal as well. Right, go and check them out. Back to the show. So is that the model then? If I joined Telesca, you're selling it to me, by the way. I'm quite excited.
Yeah, that's the model.
Fuck Hoxo, I'm joining you. But you've literally, I would come in, I would have my own candidate manager in the Philippines, and then I would basically go out and sell a retained product that is the same every time, really. And then as soon as someone signs, they work. Would I still manage that alongside the candidate manager? Take over?
And I think even the best thing we're doing too is when you come in now, we've already got retained roles for you to work on straight away. So we'd actually take that. Day one, you've got a live job to work on there. And yes, we've got a mapped out process of a role comes in. This is how it's handled. The candidate manager in the Philippines does A, B, C. The consultant does D, E, F. Candidate manager does G, and then back to the consultant, sort of X, Y, Z at the end.
Kev, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, look, I think the rationale behind it, and I think one of the things when we first started the business, we didn't actually have an idea of doing that model, and then we were really lucky, and shout out to some of the guys at TrueCool in particular, Scott and Graham. They've been fantastic, and they're Brisbane-based recruitment firm who've done exceptionally well. But they reached out to both Dan and I. We knew them individually, and they reached out to us and congratulated us day one of launching, and bought us a breakfast, I think, a couple of weeks into it. And they've been by our side since the start to help and advise. And I think one of the things that for us in particular was talking about the different structures, different ways of operating and models, and a few people kind of mentioned the idea of having that kind of candidate manager model of having a team and a resource to support recruiters. And interestingly, the numbers were stacking up, because they were saying, well, you take a good recruiter, with that sort of level of experience in the Australian market, a decent recruiter is going to be doing, 550, 600K a year would be, considered a decent recruiter. And you'll be taking that person, giving them that resource, and you'll take them from billing a 550, 600K a year biller to suddenly doing 800, 900K because they've got extra bandwidth to be able to just get on and do the job. And so for us, when we started hearing this and we started talking to a few different people to understand that model, it just became a no-brainer. If we could take a 600K a year biller and make them a 800 or 900K a year biller, the money's there, the profit's there. And so for us, it was a smart move. And I think we look forward into the future, and it absolutely is going to be a part of what we do moving forward, because there is so much administrative work that they undertake for you that give you back hours and hours and hours a day, which means suddenly instead of working on 2 or 3 roles, you're suddenly working on 6 or 7 roles. And so the opportunity for growth is massive. And on a candidate perspective, comes back to that attraction point. We're able to track people because we are able to take them on that journey, to take them from, the last 3 years they've been constantly hitting 600K a year and they've been getting rewarded really well for that. We can suddenly go to them and give them an extra level. And the way that our structure is set up is that we're not actually taking anything from those consultants. The consultants are getting full commission on the full amount that they're bringing in. The candidate manager, we're actually absorbing as a business, and we're using that as a cost because we can see that the growth in that is going to pay off. And so for us, we're getting really great candidates. It's absolutely really good. We'll get really good. Yeah, well, we'll get really good recruiters that won't go anywhere, because why would they want to leave, right? They're suddenly now billing 40% more. So
it's like you're bringing the exec search model almost to the recruitment level, right? With a researcher and all the rest of it. And I absolutely love it. And I sell my. I mean, you guys are Dan. You've worked on my Hoxo Academy, and you guys are joining our Hoxo Academy in the new year, which is really exciting. But you're running it very similar to how we run ours, right? So we have it's a product, it's a complete product. We have a marketing engine, we have a sales engine, we have a delivery engine, and it's always the same. And it's the fees. There's a set fee and there's some variable fees and things like that. And I love it. I think the classic 360 recruiter doing everything on their own is fucking hard. And there's not that many of them out there that are that good. And finding them and keeping them, and the problems that revolve around that model. What you're saying is game changing. Now, how do you price up the retainers? Because there's the third model, there's the 50-50, there's the 10% model. I mean, how are you guys doing it?
Now we're actually really straightforward. So we actually worked on a fixed fee basis. So basically, you've got 0 to 99, and then we grew up in 50 grand increments. Right. And we sort of lock our fee in at the front end of that increment around the sort of 15-16% mark. And again, that's twofold. One, it makes it really clear for our clients when they're spending what it's going to cost them. We're both big believers in the fact that if we get given a role and it's a 150 grand job and we get lucky and place someone at 170, should we really charge someone a bigger fee for doing exactly the same process and the exact same amount of work?
How does it work then? So if someone's $100,000 salary,
we just charge them a third up front. So we get paid a third in a gig of the fee for 100 grand, for example, would be, let's call it $12,000 for 100 grand placement. We would charge $4,000 up front. Pay that when we kick off, and we don't take anything else until candidate start date.
Most of our roles are much more at the senior level. So I would say, typically speaking, we work in the bands of like 150 to 200, 200 to 250, 250 to 300, and 300 above. And most of the work that we've done in the last 11 months, I would say, is probably in that sort of 250 to 300 band is where a lot of our assignments are. And both Dan and I, once again, you talk about like executive search style, right? I think that executive search, there's a lot of fluff that goes around that, and some businesses will want that, and some businesses will see value in that. I think that typically speaking, the value is in the recruiter and the industry knowledge that person brings to the table. So if you have a model that can give them confidence in what their ability is and confidence in what you deliver, like I say, all the work that we're doing is in that higher end banding. So most of our fee structure, so like, once again, just to go really clear on it, 150 to 200K is 22.5, 200 to 250 is 30, 250 to 337.5. So you can see we're locking in the fees at 15%, at the lowest end of that banding.
Yeah.
And then there's value in the band, right? The client's picking up on it really well. One of the great things that I would say is that once you start going down this model, and I would say, having worked in the UK for several years and then coming to Australia, when I came to Australia, my background's always been that renewable energy sector. So when I came to Australia, there wasn't really anyone doing it at that stage. There was a couple of companies or a couple of people. So the opportunity in that market was, in my opinion, was going, well, if the clients out there want to get the value of knowledge that I have, then I would want them to be committed to me and pay for that knowledge, right? And I think that started early on for me. So my entire time in the Australian market has always operated in that model, give or take, that sort of structure of an engagement fee up front, rest on placement. So we only do it in 2 stages. And that's always been the case. So the Australian market, I remember back in the UK, you try and sell a retainer, and it was like, this is going back, early, 2010, 2012, 2014. It was hard work, right? And if anyone ever landed it, it was like the biggest celebration in the office. And I thought, that scenario was just something that I didn't expect was going to happen here. And then very quickly, the companies over here valued it. And one thing I would say in the Australian market, and I'm not sure, I haven't been working in the UK market of late, but I think in the Australian market, recruitment is seen in a real different light. Like, there's absolute value that recruiters bring to organizations. And when you partner with companies and add that value, they just keep coming back. Some of the clients that we have been, people that I've known for 7-8 years now and done work for time and time again. And the value that I get, I've been called into, board meetings to sit down with ASX listed companies to give that sort of information. Now, that would never happen in the UK, right? Like, as a recruiter in the UK, unless you're an executive surgeon, and arguably even then it wouldn't really happen. So that, I think people in Australia naturally value the work of a recruiter typically. That, I must say, that has been changing in recent months, particularly in the market that we work. So we're working in that renewable space, right? I would say that has changed in recent months recent years, because I think there's been a lot of this market has just started to explode. So there's been, like anything, the gold rush happens and everyone kind of jumps in on it. So the quality of work from a recruitment perspective has absolutely dived. And I think that we're starting to see more and more transactional recruiters coming into the market and typically trying to throw it at the wall and hope something sticks sort of mentality. And that's starting to get to a point where clients are getting more and more frustrated with it. The good ones are sort of staying there and shining. And I think that naturally over the next few months, you'll see the balance come back into this market as all these little recruiters start to realize that it doesn't work, right? So I think there'll be some balance out there.
Yeah, I think if you're operating with integrity and a process, I mean, it can only benefit you if there's more idiots doing that, because you stand out even.
100%.
Right? It makes people go, fuck, I really enjoy working with these two. Right, you've built a productized business from day one. You've integrated with video technology. You're selling retainers with a very clear pricing structure, which generates 30% of the fee up front, 60, 70% of it on completion, which drives revenue into the business at the front end as well as at the back end, which means you've got cash flow to hire, to grow. I mean, it all makes sense. What you've got now, is it 6 people, am I right, that's in the business? Is it 6 and you're going to be 9 soon?
So come the 8th of Jan, will be 7 on the ground in Brisbane and 4 in the Philippines office. So 11.
Right, so be 11. Right, cool. And talk me through that hiring strategy. I mean, you mentioned it. I kind of get it. You've got your experience, but how have you actually gone out and done it?
I think we've got super lucky a few times, to be honest. We've landed a couple of really good people. One that we worked with previously, who was really great to get her on board. She's absolutely amazing. And I think we've had a bit of luck. Like we reached out to Brittany at the right time, had a good chat. I think it was really just, she gravitated towards us as people and likewise, and sort of saw what we were doing was different and how we were approaching the market. And I think that's allowed us to get some really good consultants in early. And we haven't yet paid a recruitment fee, surprisingly. We have got a fantastic rec to rec that we do and have always used. So quick shout out to Jess. She's a legend. But
Yes,
we haven't yet.
Surname?
Jess
Ken, mate. Nothing over now.
Jess what? Sorry.
Jess Kennett.
I'll just give her a shout out. Yeah. So if people don't know her, what she Brisbane based?
Yeah, Brisbane based. Your career. She's good.
I don't know her. Jess Ken. Let's get her on the show.
Yeah, get her on the show, mate. I'm over now. You'd have a great. Sounds
like a legend.
I think to add to Kev's point as well, we've also been pretty strong. There was there was times when we wanted to make that first hire, and we had a couple of candidates, and I've probably had to say to Kev, do we really think we can work with this person, and do we really want to hire them? And to his credit, he sort of said, actually, I kind of think you're right. So I think there was times when we could have pulled the trigger and brought people in, but it's having the strength to know that if someone's not right, you can't change them. And yes, it hurts not to hire them, but it's the right thing to do, further down the line.
What do you expect from someone coming in then? So what's like if someone's coming in, I know you said 7 years experience. Is that local, Australian and energy or renewables, or is that any recruitment?
No, because we're big believers in that we can we're big believers in that we can give them the knowledge, right? I think the knowledge of an industry that we work in is I'm not going to say easy to pass over, but we can give someone that knowledge. We just want people that are really strong recruiters, right? That have a really good reputation in the market, that are able to really kind of just get in, get the job done, and understand what they're doing from a recruitment perspective. We can give them the knowledge of energy or ESG or sustainability relatively quickly, we've got a great little podcast. We'll chuck that one out there, the Engaging ESG and Sustainability podcast. It was only a matter of time till we chopped that one in there, but that's we were able to kind of really give a lot of knowledge sharing to the team that come in, and so that part's pretty we're pretty happy with. I think it's just more about getting really solid people that suit us. And to Dan's point earlier, not gonna lie, there was a couple of people that we absolutely wanted as well, and we went through multiple discussions with, and look, we didn't end up landing them, but the door's always going to be open for us. And I think there's a risk element of someone joining Dan and I when we've got this vision and this dream and this plan, and employee number one is always going to be a tough one to get over the line, and so there was definitely a couple of people that we had some really lengthy discussions with and we were keen on, and we couldn't quite get them, but the door's open, the conversations are always going to continue, and we've kept a good relationship with them. And when the time's right,
I think for me, simply you've got to be a consultant. You've got to be able to consult and add value to your process and speak to clients at a level they're on and deliver on that. Then that's bit. If you're a transactional recruiter who's just transactional, doesn't want to add value to your process, and then you're probably not right for us.
But what was showing it, or what were the signs or targets or whatever that you had to achieve in the business for you to start hiring? Like, what were the indicators that said, right, now's the time?
If you ask me, I'll say one thing, and if you ask Dan, he'll say another.
Well, I'm asking you, Kev, and then I want to ask Dan. Dan, shut up, let Kev speak, and we'll figure it out. Let's go.
I love scaling. I love growing something. I probably would take a lot more risk than Dan does. So I would see where the opportunity is before it sort of necessarily lands in our bank account. And so often I'd be like, right, we've got these clients, we've got these ones, let's go. We should start to bring them in now. Where Dan would be like, well, hold on. What about cash flow? Let's look at the numbers and really start to work it out. And that's probably equally where both of us start to balance each other out. I think both Dan and I, it's an incredible kind of partnership in the sense that we both want to get to the same end goal. We just take different routes to get there, and I think that's quite a unique situation, and it doesn't matter what it is. So we both want to scale. We both want to get to a certain point, and if I look at what we've achieved in this year against what we had planned to achieve this year from a employee perspective and a headcount perspective, we've probably gone about 50% over what I think we planned 8 people in our first 12 months, and we're going to be at 11. So, we've definitely done more than we expected, which is fantastic. I would probably be sooner than Dan.
What you're saying is there was no KPIs for you. It was when you felt
zero.
Like There's enough incoming action. I don't know how you measure that. So Dan, what did you measure it with?
Oh, well, Kev would have been sat there 4 months in with 40 people, no business, no money, not unable to pay the salaries, I think.
It felt good though. Would have felt good.
Would have been awesome. For a month and then we'd be gone. So
yeah, I think we loosely had a plan, which is the plan. We want to pretty much bring on 2 people every kind of 6 months, right. Which we've kind of stuck to. We might have accelerated a little bit, but it's more about firstly, are Kev and I or that person we've got in place at a point where we're at capacity and there's work there the person could be doing. I think that's the first thing you've got to look at. There's no point bringing someone in when you're offloading your work and then you've got nothing to do. So that's number one. And I think now it's about getting people who, once they're sort of at a level where they're paying maybe or recovering 75 or 80% of themselves and they're on their way to being profitable, then at that point we can go and say, right, we're ready to go again, bring in the next 2. I think it's about scaling, but it's about scaling sustainably. And you know, it's that sweet spot between scaling sustainability and not trying to empire build, right? You need to find that balance in the middle.
Here's a message from our newest sponsor in 2023, the Recruit Hub. Are you thinking about starting a recruitment business in the UK or the USA? If you've thought about it, if you've got any desire to start a recruitment business in the future, or you might have just started up and you think, am I doing it right? Then you can download a startup blueprint and access key information. Information relating to funding. How much money do you actually need and what are your options? Knowing where you stand. You know, what is your non-compete and do you have any restrictions you really need to consider? Do you need a co-founder? What do you need to know about going alone, going with someone else? How to automate your way to billing faster? Business planning basics, things like what is a business plan and how do you write one? And then how do you come up with a name and build a brand? Now, if you are interested in taking this document, our newest sponsor are giving it away for free. They are called Recruit Hub, and you can get it at recruit-hub.com/startup-blueprint. The link to this message is in the show notes. So go away, get that free information, and see if you're capable of starting a new business or the business you've just started, is it set up for success? Let me know. And do you give them, like you say, a runway? Here's a few jobs when you come in to work on, and then you expect them then to go and start winning their own, and you can get back to you work your own, or are you guys passing it all on now? And
no, I think that's what we're saying. We're getting to that point where everyone's stretched, everyone's at full capacity. There's more work sitting here to be done, so someone can then come in, and there's work for them to get on with and go and build the confidence. For me, there's no point bringing in somebody, putting them on a really cold desk and letting them kind of go there, because you're almost setting them up to fail in a way. And they're going to fail on us, not on them. But that's down to us because we haven't given them the support and the startup and the setup to get going. So that's the way, from my point of view, how we do it. And fair play to Kev, he's on board with that, and it's working quite nicely.
I think we're also super lucky that we've got an incredible network of clients out there that we've been lucky to have since the start, and there've been businesses that that we've known people for years, and I think that leads a lot, right? So I guess my own background in this market has been really strong, and I've always formed some strong relationships off the back of that. And if I think about where we were in our first sort of 6 months of running the business, Dan was sort of saying, Kev, let's get some more on, and I kept saying, no, we can't quite go and get those new clients yet, because whilst they're there, and I know they're there, if we go and get them on too early and we don't deliver because we haven't got the capacity, then you get one shot at it, right? So from a strategic point of view, there was a lot of clients that we could go and get, but we actually kind of put them on the back burner until we were at a point that we could start to do it. So if I think about where we are right now, what we're about, like, really openly, I think the idea for us is that we don't want to be holding those relationships, right? One of the best clients I've ever worked with is one of my longest term clients, should I say, is a company called Iberdrola, or they used to be Infigen Energy, and that that business means so much to me. I've absolutely loved being a part of that organization for many years. I've added so many people into that company, and the relationship that I've got with the HR team and the people and culture team is fantastic. And when we got the opportunity to get back in with them, I guess the personal part of it is that I want to keep that relationship, right? Like I want to make sure that I nurture them, I look after them, and I grow them. But I've also got to remember that we've got to scale the organization, right? So Sunay joined us a few months after we got that client on board, and already that relationship, I would say, arguably has already transferred to her. So being able to pass those relationships over is super important, because we've got a lot of relationships, right? And if we kind of keep a hold of those relationships, we'll never really scale the business. So pass those relationships over, trust that your team are going to run with them, and give them the empowerment to do that. And then they'll start to do it. So, I look at the accounts that Sunay in particular has got. There's a couple of really strong relationships that we've already had in the business that we've already been able to pass those over. And that will continue, right? We'll get more ones on, we'll pass them into the team. So it's all about kind of growing their pipeline.
If you get good people who can take on work and deliver well, like they'll be fine at taking those relationships on, right? It's when you do go down that junior route, you're frightened to death of passing it on, because you're like, "Fuck is going to happen here?" And then you could lose all.
Well, you know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah. In terms of the kind of the volume per client, so like how many roles a year does a good client for you spit out?
It would vary. I think there's if I look at the clients we've got right now, most of I'd say all of the clients we've had multiple repeat business with in the 11 months we've been operating. The best client, the most volumes probably sitting at around 8 or 9 roles from, I'd say, roughly speaking, maybe a bit more. So over an 11-month period, to be able to get that sort of volume out of an account is really great. And most of our fees are sitting at that sort of 25 or 30, 37. So if you do the math, there's a couple $100,000 accounts per client. I'd say we've probably got, without knowing, Dan's probably got the spreadsheet in front of him, but I'd say, shooting from the hip here, I'd say we've probably got at least 5 or 6 clients that are over that kind of 150, 200K repeat business in their first 12 months. Is that pretty accurate, Dan?
Yeah, probably about that. Yeah. I would say, yeah.
And what will you guys bill at the end of your first financial year or first 12 months?
So where we are at a minute, so we're about a month out, so we're sitting about 1.65 million Aussie dollars.
Wow.
At the moment, and that's, I mean, for 9 months of that was Kevin and I. Really, September was when Sunay started. So,
did you set the target in year one? Did you have a number you wanted to hit?
I think if we look at, we sort of had a number we wanted to hit for the first 6 months to end that financial year, and I think that was about, from memory, 300K. We'd end up doing about 600. So we pretty much doubled that, and then
it's
for
210 was the number for the first 6 months that we had aimed for. We did about 600.
Yeah, and then for this financial year now, we've got a budget of about 2.1 million. 2.1 million, and we're tracking really healthily towards that. And if things keep going the way we are, we'll surpass that probably. End of Q3, sort of, hopefully that March, April time, and allow us to finish the financial year strongly. But I'm always feet in the ground, mate.
And is it all permanent work? Is it
all permanent? Yeah. It's all permanent recruitment. We want to start open a contracting business. We will be doing that. I think that's something when we come back from Christmas and Kev's extensive holiday. I think he's gonna. We'll get him looking at.
Where's Kev's holiday? Where's he going?
He's off for a month, mate. Where's he not going?
We're off to family holiday. We're going to Singapore for 4 days, and then Vietnam for sort of 3 weeks over the Christmas period. I've got let's be really clear here. We've got a 2 and a 4-year-old. It's either going to be fantastic and we're going to get some great support from nannies, or it's going to be an absolute disaster. So,
Kev, you told me You told me for the first 4 days, mate, you're ditching a wife and kids to go on a Bucks party and into a wedding.
That's sort of accurate, yeah.
You wife listen to the show.
I'm catching up. I'm catching up with all the boys from the UK. I'm catching up with all the boys from the UK, so we've got a wedding there, and I'm certainly playing down what could happen. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, it sounds good though. And you said building that recurring revenue will be something next year then to try.
Sorry, just to jump in. I think when we started the business, we really kind of had a few really key pillars that we wanted to cover off. And so for us, it was three big things, and it was our staff and our team, and really treating them in a way that I think is not necessarily seen in most agencies, and really adding value to them. We're going to have a model where we will be setting up a bit of a share scheme in the business, and we want to be able to really bring in people and really attract them for the long term. So there's a long term play from our employees, and we really want them to be a part of that journey. So there's a lot that we're going to do on that front, and just treating them really, really well. So that was one big pillar. The other pillar for us was around creating a recurring revenue stream. And that's something that we had always envisioned would be kind of mid next year, so 18 months into our journey, is when we started to model the contractors starting to come into that. We have also recognised that there's an opportunity in the market to do things differently on that contractor space. So without going into too much detail, we'll catch up in a year's time and see where that's got to. But we're going to build a pretty hopefully a pretty unique platform that will engage with the market in a different way, and we're pretty confident in the response that we're going to get from that. The contracting market for us is different to your typical contracting market, because what we probably see more of, particularly in the energy, ESG, sustainability space, is probably more like senior level consultants, right? So not the sort of hourly rate contractors, but rather the $2,000, $3,000 a day consultants that are going in and doing a specific piece of work or an assignment or piece, with the board or something like that. So we see more opportunity in those individuals. And I feel like there's an opportunity in the market to create something that will assist that talent pool in a way that's not been done, in our knowledge, not been done before. So we'll kind of circle back in 12 months on that one, but that could be a really kind of big recurring revenue stream that we're looking to tap into, and we'll see how that goes. Contractors will still be a part of our business, and there is opportunity for that. Your typical kind of site-based contractors, engineers, etc. So those will become a part of it as well. But I think there's a play that we're looking into in that sort of more senior consulting space. And then the third pillar for us was branding. Branding was super important, and super important from day one. I think as a business starting off, we invested heavily into that, and we really wanted to try and create a brand that was going to be recognized in the market. For us, that's been we've put it as one of our three pillars, and it's going to remain as one of our big three pillars. We're 11 months in, and just last week or even this week potentially, we've just signed up a marketing agency to do a full brand strategy for us. We're redoing our whole website right now, which is going to be super, super exciting. So kind of going to replicate what we do from a recruitment perspective, which is really working in an engagement model with our clients. What we're looking to do with our website is actually, on like say Seek or Indeed, you go on, you see a company, you see the jobs that they're working, and then you can sort of click on it and see which other jobs they've got, right? So there'll be a job advertised, and then you'll see the other ones that they've got. Our website we're building right now is going to replicate that sort of model. So we're going to have our clients going to have a page on our website. It's going to give information to those businesses, what they're about, who they are. And then when we've got roles with them, and maybe multiple roles, if you click on the project manager role, you'll see that there's these other roles with that company as well. So it's really kind of creating that connection with the businesses we support, and trying to do things differently, like creating that platform for them, where they've got that sort of area, but also for the candidate market. We can't understate how valuable that is, right? They know that they're coming to a business that's got those relationships, that's got those roles on. We're not afraid of talking about who we work with. It's not even an issue for us, because the way that we work with our clients, it's just an added value, right? So there'll be recruiters out there that will see opportunity and think that they can float through to them and all the rest of it. And good luck to them. Good approach. Go for it, right? But that's not us. And what we're trying to do is create a different approach. One of our values as a business is to be the change, right? So when we think about how can we approach recruitment, it's about let's do things differently. Like there's so much opportunity for improvement. Don't be afraid to make the change, right? So that's one of the big things we drive towards. So yeah, branding is a huge part, and come probably January, February, we're going to have a big launch on that. We've actually hired a marketing coordinator to join us full time in January. So we'll be really starting to push our brand. Obviously, we're jumping on the Hoxo Academy, and everyone's going to be in on that. And every new person that we get is going to go through that model as well. So branding, we cannot understate, and it's going to be a huge part of what we're about, because we can build a brand that's recognized in the market. That's a pillar that we want. So those are our three big.
And you mentioned that phrase, "be the change." I'd say that is literally my story. If you look back at what I did from 2017 when I launched Hoxo, I believed that LinkedIn was going to become this social media platform, and recruiters were going to be so important on LinkedIn, and it was going to become more and more. So I decided to be the change. I was like, I'm going to be the guy that stands up and tests it first and goes for it. And I completely agree with that mindset. And you won't, you'll break a bit. You'll learn what works and what doesn't, and then you'll find you'll find the right thing for you, the right products and services that you might trial something that doesn't quite stick, but other things will. Guys, can I just say, like, 1.6 million Australian dollars in 11 months is some going, right? It's incredible. Building a team, you'll be 11 people. I just want to say well done. It's I love these. I love this show. This is my favorite of all my things I do. This is my favorite thing. I love my job. I love my branding stuff, but I do love my podcast more because I get to learn. I get to learn as well as impact people, and I'm listening and picking things up from you guys. And a lot of people say, do you just interview do you just want to interview the big guys, the big companies? And no, the truth is there's so much innovation in first year businesses, second year businesses, because often you can rip things up without the pressure of all the headcount behind you, and you can just do it your way. And I think what you guys have done in the last year is you've done it your way, and it's paying off. So well done.
Oh, mate, and likewise, mate. Congrats. I mean, I love the podcast. I've been listening to it probably for 3 or 4 years, right? Every week, and certainly, mate, for someone who's involved in a startup or setting up a business in year one, mate, there's so much to learn on those guests every week. It's been awesome, just taking ideas from here, ideas from there, hearing what people have done. So yeah, mate, like keep it going, because it's an unreal learning tool, the podcast, for us, certainly for me.
Pleasure. We're not going anywhere. We're getting more and more to do. In terms of anyone listening who I think you will get people want to pick your brains on this: the productized model, the retained service, the Odro implementation, the Philippines not back office, but candidate support management. If anyone wants to just ping you a note on LinkedIn to ask questions, are you okay with that? Or the recruitment founders?
That's fine, mate. Yeah, of course. And we've got the two EVS email addresses, just dan@telesca.com.au and kev@telesca.com.au, and we're both on LinkedIn and both on the website.
I'll tag you on everything that we're connected to, but we'll stop there. But thanks so much. I want to get you back on, guys, in a year's time. All right. So if we can, I know it's a long way out, but if we plan for Q4, Q4 2024, I want to see where you're going as we roll into year two, and see if. All right. My final question is, where are you going to be? So if I interview you on 21st of November 2024. I want two separate visions here. I reckon they're going to be quite different. I'm going to start with Kev. Kev, what are you going to be telling me the business looks like in 12 months' time?
Oh, man, I thought you were talking about where we're going for holiday. I was thinking, God, it's a bit of a way off. But who knows? I do love a good holiday. Look, where's the business going to be? I think for me, I really want to be getting to this is a hard one. I would say we will be maxing out our capacity in the Brisbane office. So that means we'll be adding at least another 6 to the office. So that's probably my objective. I'd love to be starting to look to open up a second office. So Melbourne was kind of where we're thinking at this stage. Yeah, max out the capacity in the Brisbane office, looking to open up, and probably maybe not quite opened up, but looking to open up an office in Melbourne, and have a new way of reaching out to consulting market with the platform we're looking to build. I'd love to have that operational in the next 12 months.
And a contract book up and running.
Yeah.
Contract book. So Dan, contract book, maxed out office, looking at a second location, and consulting. They're the three things in 12 months. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be it, and I think for me, everything is really stamping our mark in the market and being the sort of go-to people when it comes to that energy sector, ESG and sustainability. I want Telesca to be the name that people automatically associate or come to, and I think actually be real market experts and be people who people want to work with us, rather than we're sort of going and chasing them. So yeah, let's see. Fingers crossed.
Guys, I wish you all the best for 12 months. We'll get you back on the show, and stay safe in the meantime, all right?
Cheers, mate.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
very
Cheers.
much.
Thank you as always for listening to today's show. I truly hope that you got value from it. Honestly, it's the only reason I take time every week to ensure that my audience, you guys, future and existing recruitment owners, you're learning from each other to make this industry that I love so much stronger. And today's episode is brought to you by my business, Hoxo. I'm the CEO and founder, and we're on a mission to help brand recruitment agencies and their people better. I want to help people have the tools to stand out in the most competitive markets in the world. We're currently working with over 350 recruitment agencies and 5,000 of their consultants right now, helping them to build their personal brands, to consistently win more business, attract talent, and just become that go-to recruiter in the market. Now, we do have a huge coaching program, but a lot of people don't know we also manage the brands of a lot of founders, and we can do the rebrand of that company organizational piece as well. So if your recruitment agency either needs help to look and sound exactly how you want it to, or your leadership and consultant level need to get out there and drive more traffic back to that website, to the business, and start using LinkedIn to generate more revenue, then you should definitely be reaching out to us. If that sounds of interest, please do visit www.hoxomedia.com or drop me, Sean, a personal message on LinkedIn. I love hearing from RAG listeners. I would love to talk to you. Look forward to it. So I'll see you again next week with another episode. Catch you soon.